When viewing this video, if you want to not watch the whole video but want to skip to certain sections of the video, just put your mouse over the top and click on the area that you want the video to go to. Or you can go down here and click on the table of contents and it will pull it up. And then once you move your mouse off of the video, it'll go back to the whole video. Hello, this is Gary Benoit, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you the interface or the main page of the ComputerCut program. The first thing you'll notice when you open up the page is the databases will show select, and right in the middle of the page you'll see a banner. This is a way for us to communicate to you sales that we have on products, new products that are coming out, information about ComputerCut, or just general information. Also, many times you'll see an announcement pop up. This is our instant message service where we are able to communicate with all of our dealers through messaging, or we can communicate specifically to an individual dealer. It's very important that you read these messages when they pop up and don't dismiss them until after you've read them, because many of them are very important. Many times we communicate cautions about installations on vehicles, and we give you tips on vehicles. So be sure to read the announcements before you dismiss. So we'll start at the top up here and go through each one of these functions up here. If you click on the file and reconnect, what that does is it reconnects you to the internet whenever you need to reconnect. The second, up at the top here, is the cut window. If you want to bypass everything in here, you just hit the cut window and it will take you to the plotter dialog window where you can cut directly. The third is an import function. You can create many designs outside of ComputerCut and save them as an Adobe Illustrator file or other files and import them into ComputerCut. And then here we have the exit function. Next is the edit function, where you can click on here and you can select all the images that you might have in the program, or it shows you a keyboard shortcut, which is on your keyboard. You simply press your Control key and A and it'll select everything in the window. Next is the options and then setup. This is where you can set up your account, the network, and the plotter. So the first thing to pop up is your account. Because you're seeing this, you probably already know how to put your username and password in here. You can also select the language that you want ComputerCut to be in, or in the units, whether it be inches, centimeters, or meters. Once you select it, just click apply. Next is the network. ComputerCut is basically like your browser. It acts like a browser. So what it does is it just goes to the ComputerCut site, and that's how it selects the images and downloads them. If your computer is running through a company server and not going directly to the internet, then you'll need to get with your IT person and have them set up the proxy settings so that ComputerCut can go through the server to connect to the internet. The last tab is the plotter tab. This is where ComputerCut communicates to your plotter. You want the plotter type to be HPGL. This will be in the majority of the plotters that you have. About the only time you will not use HPGL is if you are using ComputerCut plugin, which bypasses all of this and goes directly to the ComputerCut plugin. The plugin is a program that runs alongside the ComputerCut program so that we can drive many of the off-brand plotters. But for the majority of your plotters, you're going to communicate in HPGL language. Here is the ports. Now this is where you select the port on your computer to communicate with their plotter. With our Jaguar plotters, when you install the plotter, it installs as a printer and it'll show up in the ports on ComputerCut. You can also communicate using a USB to serial cable, and if you had that installed on your computer, you would see a COM3 or higher displayed under the port. Since we're not connected using a USB to serial cable, a COM port does not show it. The baud rate, the parity, your data bits, your stop bits, and your handshake will default to these settings, and you should not have to adjust these at all. It's just the way in which the program communicates with your plotter. Down here is the plotter width. It defaults to 40 inches. So if you have a larger plotter, say a 72 inch, what you would do is put 72 inches in here, and then when you go to the cut window, you would see a 72 inch cut window. But since most people have 40 inch plotters, it defaults to 40 inch, and in the plotter dialog window, which is the window where you cut from, it shows a width of 40. The resolution is the size of the images that the plotter cuts. It defaults at 40, which is the default resolution for the majority of your most popular plotter. Basically, it's the size of the cam that feeds the material through the plotter. So you shouldn't have to mess with this, except in instances where you might have an off-brand plotter. I'm going to get back to this in a sec. The last thing is the feed after cut. What this does is after the plotter finishes a cut, it feeds it out so that you can cut it off the plotter. With the Jaguar plotters, a distance of 5 or 4.75 is the best distance for it to feed out. So let me go back to the resolution. Let's say you're cutting some patterns and they're just not fitting. It's probably because the resolution of the plotter is different than this resolution here. If they're not fitting all the time, then that is probably the problem. So in order to adjust the resolution for that particular plotter, you can go to our flat glass database, which is right here, and go to test cut for plotter resolution and width. And basically it's a rectangle that is 6 inches by 58 inches, and you'll cut that and measure it. And if the measurement is off, then the resolution is off. So if you look down here, it gives you directions on how to adjust the resolution on the plotter. Okay, now back up to another function. This is the recent function, and what it does is it pulls up 20 of your most recent cuts that you've done. This way you don't have to go back through the menu and select it and everything. Just go back up to recents and you can find what you've recently cut. Next is your favorites. Favorites is kind of like your bookmark. It's the vehicles that you will do most often. You can store up to 20 favorites. And in this case, we have a Ford Mustang in here. So what you do, if you have a vehicle that you do all the time and you don't want to have to constantly pull it up and you want a shortcut, you go down here to add to my favorites, and when you click add to my favorites, it puts it into the favorites list at the top. Next is help. If you click on the support button under help, that will take you to the support section of the ComputerCut website. If you want remote support, where we can go on your computer and assist you, you click on the remote support and it will take you to TeamViewer Quick Support under the member site so that we can go on your computer and help you. Next is contact, if you need to contact us, and submit graphic. If you submit a graphic, it takes you to the member site, and in here, over on the right here, you can submit a graphic to our graphic artist to design for you to put into ComputerCut. You just choose the file, when you need it by, and then comments about what it is or any information that you want the graphic artist to know about. Click Submit Now, and it goes directly to the graphic artist. Okay, so now we'll get into the main databases of the ComputerCut website. Over here are the lists of the databases that you have access. In this case, we have access to the Auto Window Tinting database, Clear Shield Paint Protection database, Commercial Vehicle Truck database for Windows, Auto Body Kits for striping and kits for cars. The CC Dealer database is a database where the graphics that are created by our graphic artists are placed in here. We have thousands of graphics under the CC Dealer database. We have a database of decals, our flat glass database, our glass art database, which is a database of designs that you can use to cut out frosted film for architectural. My database is the private database for our dealers, where it is specific to the dealer and no one else has access to my database except the dealer. And Smart Designs, these are decals and graphics that were created by a smart design. So here I'll give you a little explanation about these buttons over here on the left. Cut button is the button that you push once you select the images that you have in ComputerCut. We'll get into that in a little bit. The My Home button takes you to the members home of ComputerCut. Click on that and it'll open up your browser and take you to the ComputerCut members home. We'll get into this in future tutorials. The announcement button again takes you to the members site and it shows you the past announcements that we've made with the instant message service that we have. Next is Tips and Help. If you click on that, it takes you to the Tips and Help section where we have an abundance of information about the program and where we have an abundance of information at your disposal. All you have to do is just select whatever databases you want to search out, put whatever you want to search for in here and search, and it'll pull up some information for you. Next is your catalog. Again, it takes you to the ComputerCut website where you can search out information, find particular cars, and also download a list of the patterns in the ComputerCut database. Next is the search function. So if you pull up a database and you click on search, it pulls up windows of the databases and you can search for something in the database. So let's just let's search out a Ford Mustang and click search, and it pulls the vehicles up under the search, and all you have to do is to click on the image of the vehicle. Let's just pick this one right here, and it'll pop up in the ComputerCut window right here. So it's a good way to search out for stuff that you might not find up in here. And finally, the last button is for invoicing. You can create a generic invoice for your customer and print it out using the invoice. And then lastly, over here is the new and updated features. We are constantly improving our patterns, adjusting our patterns, and putting new patterns in. So this is where you will see what is new and updated. You can also access them by simply clicking on them, and they'll pop up in the main page window. Okay, so let's start with the auto window tinting database. You just select the database and then select the vehicle that you're looking for. Let's go for this Mitsubishi Eclipse that we just posted here. So we'll scroll down to Mitsubishi and then click on the year and then the model, the Eclipse Cross, and it pops up in the main screen here with the name of the vehicle here and then the windows here. The first thing you want to do when you pull up a vehicle is go down here and look at the notes and installation tips down here. Again, this is very important because a lot of times we'll give you great tips on how to install that particular vehicle, but most important, we will give you installation warnings or cautions about what you might encounter with the vehicle. This is very important with a lot of the newer vehicles that are coming out because many times the computers are below the back deck, in the rear window, or around the mirrors. So make sure that you check this notes and installation tips because it can save you a significant amount of money. All of the windows that appear in red are your driver windows, and the ones in black passenger windows or your rear window or windshields. We have most of the windshields for your newer cars. We started putting them in the past couple of years, and in many instances where sunroofs are available, we will have a sunroof for you. Everything is prearranged for cutting on 40-inch material, so these patterns are arranged for cutting on a 40-inch. And what we've done is we've made it a little bit easier for you so you don't have to move windows around. But when you cut a car, you're not going to cut a whole car at one time. You want to cut a section at a time. So if you're going to cut these front windows, and if it's the same darkness as the rest of the car, you can select these two windows here and it'll cut it with the front windows rather than having to move these over. You'll also see where we have contoured sun strips down below most of the windshield. This is a great feature of computer cutting programs because it looks like factory tinted glass. So rather than getting the eyebrow type of look, you can get a contoured sun strip. Also, we show you a picture of the vehicle down in the corner here so that you can compare it with your vehicle. You can also click on it and it'll pop up in a larger version so you can get a better look at it. Also, down here under the notes and installation tips, you'll see additional links. The first one being send a comment on the pattern. We are constantly updating our patterns and we are constantly trying to give you the best patterns. We work out of a high volume tint shop to stay on top of the fit of the patterns, but we also need input from you. So if you encounter a pattern that just doesn't fit quite right, please take the time and click on the link and send a comment on the pattern. Again, if you click on it, it takes you to the member site, and in here you can tell us exactly what the problem is. Please be as specific as possible. Don't just say this window's too big or this we're too small. Tell us exactly how and how much it is too big or too small. Also down here is add a note to the pattern. Let's say you do this vehicle and there's something that you want to be reminded of the next time you pull up this pattern. So if you click on the add a note, it brings you up to the members site again, and you just put a note in here and click submit, and the next time you pull up the pattern, that note will show up under the notes and installation tip. Also, we want to hear from you if you have a tip that will help the installation of this vehicle and help other ComputerCut dealers on the installation. So again, click on the submit installation tip and it'll take you to the website where you can notify us of a tip that you might have for that particular vehicle. We really appreciate any input you can give us in that respect. You can also create your own version of the patterns. We'll get into that a little bit later in other videos, but what that does is when you can edit a pattern and then save it and then create it as your version of the pattern, so that every time you pull up that pattern, it will fit exactly the way in which you would like it to fit. And then also, as I pointed out previously, you can add this vehicle to your favorites up here. So as you can see, everything is prearranged for a 40-inch roll of material. Now, you do not want to select a whole car and cut a whole car at one time, because it's too much material to handle. So you're going to want to cut a car in sections. So since we prearranged these for 40-inch material, we have made it a little bit easier for you by taking the quarter windows and nesting them within the front windows and also with the back, so that you can save on material and also save on time. So there's a quick explanation of how to work with the ComputerCut interface. The next video in our series, I will get into the selection of the windows of the vehicle, taking them to the plotter dialog window, which is the window in which you cut from right here. This is the plotter dialog, and I will show you how to operate the plotter dialog window.